Hey everyone, it's Luke here from LT Gaming and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm doing a quick review of SGS Overlord, a very competent wargame that's coming to you on the 6th of June. The SGS titles have always been popular on this channel and I won't forget when I discovered them with SGS Montezuma. For me, it represented a wargame that finally ran really well on a modern system, had great unit graphics, wonderful music, and overall, just really great gameplay that was easy to pick up and learn. It was very intuitive. And we kept covering their games on this channel, and finally, I think they reached a real peak with SGS NATO's Nightmare. It was a very ambitious title. Since then, Avalon Digital have taken a turn into the Battle 4 series, looking at much smaller conflicts, and overall, although these have been good titles, they didn't really reach the pinnacle and ambition of NATO's Nightmare. And while every game has been competent, they have also been niche. SGS Battle for Madrid, for instance, definitely doesn't have the appeal of a larger title. Enter SGS Overlord, which I think sits somewhere in the middle of the Battle 4 series and their larger ambitious projects. Here at LT Gaming, we've seen an absolute explosion on our channel. We really have grown super quick, but we don't want to lose our niche roots, and it's great to cover games that some channels just won't ever look at. There's a huge amount of wargamers here, so looking at titles like SGS Overlord still brings me great joy. As a result, if you're an LT gamer or you're even from the outside and you're watching this review, do drop it a like, a comment, and make sure to subscribe. It's really important that we continue to drive niche projects and support teams making these sorts of games. Okay, let's discuss the background and content of SGS Overlord. This game covers the largest amphibious operation of World War II and a 2-month campaign in the hell of the Norman bocage. As the Allies, will you manage to make the decisive breakthrough before the Germans can recover, or will you succeed as Rommel wanted in crushing the Allied landing as close to the beaches as possible? It's a complete standalone game that covers the World War II operations in Normandy from June 6, 1944 till the end of August, using 3-day turns. The build of the game that I had access to contained the Grand Campaign, and I spent most of my time with this. It also had another 3 scenarios. However, there were more promised in the actual Steam description, so I hope these are added at launch or in post-release support. What you actually get here is a very focused 30-turn campaign, full of conflict, battle, strategy, and everything you could want in a modern wargame. The other scenarios that I did play were all variations on a theme, although the Cherbourg campaign was very good for understanding the basics and mechanics of an SGS title. The game has also been balanced to make it competitive. Of course, the Allies were always going to land at D-Day. They had an overwhelming amount of resources behind them. The Germans have pretty much lost air support, but the good quality troops they have helped to balance the game. And they also had a lot of defensive advantages, which was something I definitely found out when my British troops got bogged down in the marshes, woods and forest of the infamous bocage. And if you're playing as the Allies, you have overwhelming air superiority, and if you secure the beachheads, overwhelming reinforcements. And I have to say, the background and setting of this particular SGS title does excite me again. I wasn't too fired up about SGS Madrid, however, Overlord gives me a real chance to get excited about managing American and British troops on the same map. Okay, we've set the scene and you understand the scale of the game. Let's jump into what is good and what I enjoyed about this title. My excitement as playing as the British and American forces landing at D-Day was definitely a huge plus. It's a very tight and focused scenario with a huge amount of combat. There isn't a turn that goes by when you're not fighting multiple battles and pushing on all fronts. As I found out as the Allies, it's extremely easy to get cut off and outflanked if you're not careful, and this provides some definite challenge. One big change in this SGS title is there's a real focus on supply limit, so you can't just make massive doom stacks and move around the map. You have to plan and organise your forces effectively. In essence, most of the map locations have a 40 stack limit, and this really is a clever move to make sure that you have to plan your assaults in different directions and also make multiple attacks to take certain cities. One thing that I always felt needed to be done better in these games is reconnaissance. And I have to say, in Overlord, this is done quite well. They've increased the amount of reconnaissance cards, and you're able to map and plan your moves a lot more effectively than older SGS titles. My forces, as they landed on the beaches and then pushed inwards into France, really took a battering, and reinforcements play an important role here. You really do have to resupply and redirect your forces as you take losses. It's a small and beautiful map with really great unit cards as always. I just love panning through the units, and this goes back to my youth. I was actually talking with someone in the Discord about this, and the little Collins books that I had, looking at all the different tanks of World War II, the Cold War and all the aircraft. It really does remind me of this when I play war games. The UI and smooth gameplay on modern systems is what drew me to the SGS titles, and nothing has changed here. It's very solid, there isn't really any improvements, but it also works really well, and it brings me back to the SGS series time and time again. Some really great music choices in this one, some very patriotic tunes on both sides, really immerses you in the action, and it's very unusual to hear these in any game these days. And the gameplay in this one is a huge amount of fun. You're either putting unrelenting pressure on the Germans, or you're trying to defend for your life as the Allies take the beaches. There's also some new functions here in the gameplay, like the stacking limit and the ability to build new air bases. Overall, I really have to praise the gameplay in Overlord as bringing me back to the SGS titles in general. It's really, really strong in that regard. The AI was competent, and that has been a challenge for many of the SGS titles. You're always better off playing against a human player. However, here they did cut me off and they did make some innovative moves, and overall I found it to be a decent challenge. The Grand Campaign is very focused and only 30 turns, but the ability to play as both sides and try different tactics and scenarios will give you some playtime here. Okay, so this is the things I liked about SGS Overlord. What did I not like? And I'm glad to report there wasn't a whole lot. I'll be honest, after playing the Battle 4 series, I had a bit of SGS exhaustion, but coming into this one, I just absolutely loved it. The scenario was great, playing as the British and Americans is awesome, trying to defend as the Germans is a real challenge, and overall it's just a solid experience. But there are a few things to pick at here. There isn't really any evolution in the engine of the game, and although they have added some mechanics here to make it more interesting, it is the same SGS flavour as always. For me also, if you're not used to the quirks of SGS, some of the things that happen can be a little bit jarring. Like there are some questionable results in some battles I played. I would have overwhelming forces attacking a small German force, and it would still say that the Axis won the battle, and it didn't make much sense to me as we'd done most of the damage and lost on a morale modifier. Another quirk that would be jarring for new players is if you attack with an aircraft. You will do damage to the German units, but it will say they won the battle. It just makes no sense. Some players may also find the scope a bit narrow. Yes, I found this scenario particularly engaging, but it is very focused, and that might not be enough for some players, especially given the price point. The tutorials didn't bother me too much. I actually enjoy the video integration, and I was actually offered to voice those tutorials, so I won't say too much. Perhaps I should have took them up on their offer. Also, the build that I played contained 4 scenarios with many more promise, so I do hope they have post-release support here. It is a conversation I had with a member of Avalon Digital. They want to provide more support for their games and make bigger games and possibly move away from producing so many titles. I think this could be a good move. I've always pushed Philippe at Avalon to try and make a grand strategy game. I'd love to see that. My concluding thoughts about SGS Overlord is that it's a very strong war game and a huge amount of fun. It drew me back into the SGS series after I got a little bit tired of the World War II titles. It's a strong entry and a focused scenario, and if you're into the Allied landings at D-Day, it's an absolute must-buy. There's definitely a few nitpicks to have here, but I do know the team at Avalon Digital well, and I will say it's a niche wargame and they deserve your support. So there we go, LT Gamers. We'd absolutely love your support on this video, and make sure to go out and buy the game or wishlist it if you're interested. As I stated in the opener, I always want us to stay close to our niche roots and cover games like these on the channel, no matter how big we get. Me and Tom appreciate all of your support like you'll never know, and we want to keep growing this channel into something very special. Right, I've been Luke from LT Gaming. As always, have a great day, and I'll catch you on the next one.